everyone, and welcome to Vita Island. Oh yes, I'm still here. I will continue covering the Vita and Vita games on and off. Are you still on Vita Island? Please let me know. I'm making this video in the hopes that maybe a dozen or so people, maybe 24, might turn up and say, yes, I've still got my Vita. I still sometimes play a Vita game. So today is going to be a bit of a celebration of the Vita because not many people talk about it anymore. And that's a shame because we Vita owners know that it was, and possibly still is, one of the very best handheld consoles ever. Certainly from an ergonomic perspective, I have never had a handheld portable console that feels as comfortable to hold and to operate as the Vita. Here's one of my 9 much-loved Vitas. You can see I've got a Girls and Panzer cover for it. And inside is my beautiful white Vita, a Japanese model. It's the Slim Vita, not OLED. I don't know whether you can see it, but the colour is just gorgeous. It's not a bright white. It's a sort of slightly off-white, a bit creamy. It looks just amazing. Now, this is the Vita that I posted about on Twitter a while ago because I thought I'd lost it. At the time, 20 months prior, I had tucked it away somewhere for, safe keeping while we were away on holiday. And when we got home, I managed to retrieve 8 Vitas, but not the 9th one. I spent so many hours looking around. Where had I hidden it? I just could not locate it. I thought I was going crazy. I thought, oh well, in time it will turn up. When you're not looking, that's when you find things. Nope, it just didn't turn up. After 12 months, I got really concerned because I thought if the battery dies down and it loses crucial information, because on this one I happen to have my Japanese account and that was a bit of a bother to set up, so losing that would have been really frustrating. But as luck would have it, after 20 months, Poodle Pa, by accident, found it. I plugged it in, and yes, it was on red, and it took a long time to charge up, but everything was still there. 20 months. This battery is unbeatable. I've never seen anything like it. So, in keeping with the Vita theme, I've put out some of my Vita enamel pins. I will focus in on those so you can have a good look. They're gorgeous, aren't they? Now, as you can see, I've got 2 boxes here, and you will have spotted that it says Hakuoki. Yes, I have got an unboxing for today, and as usual, there's a bit of a story behind it. When the new edition for Hakuoki came out for the Vita, I ordered the limited edition from Idea Factory. It came out in 2017, and the great attraction was that it was beautifully remastered, the graphics, because Hakuoki is actually quite an old game. It goes back to the PS2 in Japan in 2008. And afterwards there were several other releases. There was one for the PSP, I remember. There was also a very popular anime made by Dean Studio. I also have a 3DS edition of the game. However, the graphics are really poor here on the 3DS. I would not recommend it. And it is possibly even slightly truncated, the story. There isn't a lot of content in here. But it was that popular that it came to almost all platforms. So the Vita edition, not only was it beautifully remastered, it also had a boatload of extra content in the form of extra routes. A new batch of bachelors on top of the already existing 6, and the edition was projected to cover 2 games, with the follow-up being issued, I think, the next year or so. So playtime was practically doubled. As you can imagine, this proved a very exciting release, and a lot of people jumped onto it. So just a quick explanation in case you've never come across Hakuoki, don't know what it is. Maybe you've never played a visual novel before, because that's what it is. It's a Japanese otome visual novel. Otome meaning something like romance in the West. So we have one main female character and then a whole group of young men who are eligible bachelors, like you might find in one of the popular farming games. Story of Seasons, Harvest Moon, you know. But in an otome visual novel, everything, the story, all the events are integrated with the character development and the development of the romantic relationship. The original Hakuoki was ported to the PS3 in 2014. The PS3 edition had an extra carrot included in the form of special bonus content, which for many, many years was only available on the PS3. Now, this happens to be the version which I played here on my channel and did a playthrough, so if you check my playlists, you should find it there under Hakuoki and visual novel. And I will explain in a moment why I chose this version for playthrough rather than the extended PS Vita version. So I got the limited edition in 2017. I was really excited about it. There was one special reason why I wanted it. I knew there was an item included which I wanted to give to Poodlepa as a gift. This is possibly the only time I've ever had a huge sinkhole of a disappointment with an Idea Factory limited edition. As you know, I've done many unboxings and I've always found the Idea Factory limited editions to be very reliable and on the whole good quality. But this one item that I wanted it specifically for let me down badly. Let me explain. Isn't it a gorgeous box? And this is the offending article. It was described as a bento box, and foolish me thought I might be able to give it to Poodlepa and he could use it as a bento box. No. This is purely for display purposes, I suppose, although it wouldn't make a very beautiful or exciting display either, I don't think. The moment I read the information that comes with it, I was disappointed. Material is bamboo, wood, Chinese fir and white latex. Warning label, hand wash only. It is not dishwasher safe, yeah, obviously, and it's not microwave safe either. The problem is I wasn't totally sure whether it was really food safe. You can see they put on a sort of imitation wood surfacing, and it looks quite dark, and the title, the Hakuoki title, doesn't really stand out that well. The problem is it's finished with what I would think might be some form of lacquer. I'm not totally sure, but of course you don't want to have your food in contact with that type of material. I didn't want to accidentally poison Poodle Pa, so it wouldn't have worked anyway, because, yeah, there's a little divider which, yeah, slides about a bit. Okay, doesn't fit awfully well. The lid, I don't know if you can see it. The lid is completely loose. It overlaps by an amazing amount. So even if you kept food in there, smells would get out, and that might hold it in place. But yeah, it didn't strike me as a terribly good construction. We already have a couple of really good bento boxes with the Tottori design on it, so this never saw service as a bento box. The other items are fine. There is a large furoshiki, I think it's called in Japanese, with all the bachelors on it. The big napkin that I think in Japan they sort of fold up really cleverly, and you can put your bento box and other stuff in it, and it's sort of like a carrier. The game, Kyoto Winds, and this is still a Region 4 edition. So Oceania, Australia, New Zealand and other territories, which back then publishers still made editions specifically for our region, Region 4. Of course, that has long gone by the wayside, but yeah. So I played the game, I 100%ed it, platted it as well. So what is so special about Hakuoki? Well, as I mentioned, I think somewhere in my introduction to the Hakuoki playthrough I did, it's now considered a bit of a classic. It's kind of iconic because it was for many people the first time they'd really come in contact in the West with an otome visual novel. And Hakuoki captured the imagination. And I'm not surprised, because it's not just about romance. There is a really intriguing, sometimes sinister story woven around all these events. What are the events? Well, this is the thing about Hakuoki. It is based on real events. The events are mainly based in Kyoto, and that's why the first game is called Kyoto Winds. And we go back to 1864 and the events of about 5 years after that. And the game covers the historic events amazingly accurately. It really feels quite authentic. What is not so authentic are the fictional components, which move, as you would expect with a Japanese game, into the territory of demons and all sorts of other things I won't give away. I will later include a few gameplay clips, and there will be some spoilers in those because I cover the second game. But I will clearly mark those. Where the clips contain spoilers, there'll be a big spoiler tag, so, you can then safely skip that. The story revolves around the Shinsengumi, a sort of police force, militia, something like that, in Kyoto. They were formed in 1863. The problem was that they mainly recruited ronin, so they were masterless samurai, and I think a lot of people held that against them. So they were constantly up against a sort of negative preconceptions about them. So our female main character, Chizuru, becomes entangled with the Shinsengumi and spends the next few years, I think, with them. And that gives you a chance to pick the route, the story arc that you want to experience with a particular male character and see them through their tumultuous relationship and the surrounding events. Spoilers ahead, please take care. Let's have a look at Edo Blossoms. You always have to reconfirm the name of the protagonist, Chizuru. And here is the roster of the bachelor whose routes I have done so far. Hijikata is always the first one I do. Soji Okita, Hajime Saito, Heisuke, Toudou, Sanosuke, Harada, Shinpachi, and Keisuke Sanan I haven't done yet, as you can see. Let's dive into one of these stories, picking at random Soji Okita. We start with a brief synopsis of the events so far, meaning what happened in the first part of the story called Kyoto Winds. And if you've played that, you will recognize these events. It's a helpful reminder if you have quite a gap between playing Kyoto Winds and then followed it up with Edo Blossoms. There is also mention here of the crucial understanding the Shinsengumi have of themselves as a dying breed, true samurai. We get a very brief character profile of Okita, and we're still harking back to the events of Kyoto Winds here with Okita's illness. And this is, of course, now the great dramatic element in the story, the fictional twist of the water of life, which transforms them into so-called furies. You can tell that there's already a more somber note at the beginning of this second part of the story. The constant danger for the Shinsengumi warriors to descend into madness due to the water of life is mirrored by the real-time events of their cause being slowly but surely overpowered by other forces in Japanese history. And so begins the Edo part of the story of Okita and Chizuru. And we're straight into the dialogue choices here, which of course determine your level of romance with Okita and ultimately the outcome of your story route. However, the course of true love does not run smoothly for these two, as you can see.
からって昼も夜もなくつきっきりなんてさ。ほら、文句言わないで部屋に戻って。子供はさっさと寝なよ。
Okita's energetic posturing is his own downfall. These two still have quite a few issues to untangle. The final, hopefully if you've played it well, the final happy ending. Different story endings can be achieved by choosing either high or low romance, depending on what you completed before. So this time I went with low romance. And you also need to consider the level of corruption the Shinsengumi endure. So with low romance and high corruption, you would expect an outcome very, very different from the high romance good ending. The mood is much more subdued and melancholic in this part of the story. Despite the somber note, we do still get happy endings, depending on your choices, of course, always.
「だからしばらく寝顔でも眺めてよ」俺はそばにいた。大丈夫。日が落ちても月が昇っていつか別れる日が来ても
That's what otome visual novels are all about. There's also a soundtrack for Kyoto Winds, 20 tracks, and a hardback art book called Record of Service, and if you've played the game you will know what that means, because in the menu you can use the Record of Service to select particular routes and chapters to play and replay, etc. Here are the routes that were added in Edo Blossoms: Yamazaki, Hachiroiba, Kazuo-soma, Ryoma Sakamoto, Chikage Kazama, Finally, Yukimura, that's Chizuru, her story without any dialogue options or love interest, just a straightforward narrative. Very nice art book. And that is the limited edition of Kyoto Winds, the first part of the PS Vita edition of the complete game. So after the disappointment of this edition, or the one item in this edition, I got a bit cautious and I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't spend money on getting the limited edition for the second part. I simply bought the game when it released. So the second part is called Edo Blossoms. I've got the European edition here. So what happened? I've got the box here. Well, it came out in 2018 and I didn't buy it then. And I didn't buy it the following year either, and I almost forgot about it because I had started playing the second game and I was well into it. I had cleared the relevant chapters for quite a few characters, the routes. But then I sort of got stuck and I put it aside. And that's the interesting thing. Remember when I mentioned earlier why I picked the old PS3 edition, which is, by the way, not in high definition, of course, why I picked that for my playthrough? The reason is that I actually prefer the narrative structure of the old game. It's just got the right length for me. If you like endless length for your visual novels, then the PS Vita edition is perfect for you. You can now get it on the Switch as well, all in one edition in one file. But for me, it's a bit much and a bit long, and that's why I kind of just sort of ambled away and looked for something else. The PS3 version, for me, has the perfect pacing, if you see what I mean. That's really the only, well, it's not a criticism, it's purely a personal reaction. The length and pacing doesn't suit me and my tastes as well as the original story. But what I really want to do is wield my good old German cheese knife on this box, which I bought, I don't know when, but they had a sort of stock notice up on their website saying under 1% left. And I thought, no, if I don't get it, will I regret it forever? I think we all know what that's called. Yeah, FOMO. So I did get it in the end. But I never had the courage to open it. This is the perfect occasion. So let's dig in. Again, a very pretty, a very beautiful box. So please let me know while I'm wrestling with the items here and getting cellophane off. Let me know, do you still play on your Vita, or is it gathering dust? Can you remember what your happiest gaming experience or moments were on the Vita? And have you ever played a visual novel? Do you know Hakuoki? Yes, identical to the copy I've got. It's the European edition. Oh, look at them, the pins. I would say that's our 6 main bachelors. Very chibi. Now, this limited edition is just slightly different from the usual ones with Idea Factory and from this one, which includes, as I always say, the mainstay for me is art book and soundtrack. I think this one doesn't have a soundtrack, but it comes with a wee mug. Yes, 12 bachelors. 12 possible candidates for Chizuru's heart. I know it's small, but you know what? I don't actually like large mugs. I never drink from them, but I like the small size. Yeah, it's just right for my afternoon miso, or in the evenings I suppose you could sneak some sake into there and feel like a real samurai, like a Shinsengumi warrior, slurping it after a battle. Who knows? And the other special item, instead of a soundtrack, is a calendar. Now, calendars are very nice, and this one looks quite beautiful. The only problem with them is that the year goes by so fast. By the time I get around to putting up the calendar, we're already approaching Christmas again. There are a lot of kissing scenes in the calendar, but also more dramatic scenes. If you formed the impression so far that it's all very slow moving with lots of dialogue, then please be assured that there are plenty of action scenes as well. It's very classy, the calendar, you know, the black background, the flowers just like in the game. Yeah, it looks very good. And the hardback art book. Now, the original 6 bachelors, of course, they would have been able to recycle here in the book, but there are the 6 new ones as well. Ryuma Sakamoto, Isami Kondo. What a tragic figure. I have a very, very soft spot for Kondo. The enigmatic Chikage Kazama. Some of the most interesting story events, to my mind anyway, revolve around Kazama. And of course the protagonist, Chizuru. She is in keeping with 19th century Japan, portrayed as quite usually accommodating, let's put it like that. She puts her own needs after those of the men of the Shinsengumi, I would say. But the important thing is, occasionally, with really important, crucial tipping points, decisions, she will suddenly stand up and say what she thinks. or act according to what she thinks is the right thing to do. And those moments are always quite incisive and exciting.
邪魔ですよ、雪村君。
大丈夫か、千鶴。
どうです。羅刹ならばこういった戦い方、人を凌駕する生き物に生まれ変わったというのに、それが君。
Now this I like. Here we have the path of the Shinsengumi, and we can follow the events on the map, so we've got some idea where the action takes place. So places and historical background are explained. Yokohama, Hakone, Utsunomiya, Aizu. These are all names you will be familiar with if you've played the game, or maybe watched the anime. Sendai Hakodate, yes. Republic of Edo, hierarchy of power, it is all explained. And then we have a lot of event scenes. So again, a very nice art book. I really can't fault it. And here you have it. 2 limited editions for Hakuoki stories of the Shinsengumi. The game is optimized for handheld gameplay. It plays, of course, beautifully on the Vita. So I just want to touch upon a question that I would think most Vita owners may have been wondering about, and that is, will Sony ever do another handheld device again? Of course we don't know, and when the Vita was pretty unceremoniously retired by them, I thought, no, the days of Sony doing handheld, those days are over. Nintendo was filling the gap with the Switch so dominantly, so extraordinarily, that it seemed nobody else would be able to get a foot in that door. And why would they? They were doing well with the PS4. They're still doing fine. Does Sony need a handheld? I don't know, but something is sort of nagging at the back of my mind that they might be thinking about it. There is this device called, I think it's called the Portal, that works in conjunction with the PS5. It only works as a sort of direct streaming device, I think, from games from your PS5 to this Portal. So it's quite limited in what it can do. But I've talked to people who've got one, and they all said they were surprised how much they like it, how good it feels in the hand because of the, you just attach the controller bits, how they really would like to have a proper portable device that was a bit like that. And I'm thinking, it wouldn't take too much to take that extra step. Just like back with the Vita, it would only have taken that little extra step or two to make the Vita into that truly outstanding device, like to have the HDMI out port available. Yes, not bother with the back touch, stuff like that. The memory cards, the memory cards. you just cut out a few of the mistakes and put in one or two crucial features, and you've got a really winning scenario, I think. They were so close with the Vita, but not close enough. And just if they're thinking of maybe launching another handheld device and have it in conjunction with the future console, the PS6, I'm just wondering if they're tempted, because handheld play has been such a big feature in people's lives, especially since the days of the height of the COVID pandemic. Yeah, it's one of the things I'm really, really interested in. I'm watching like a hawk if anything is happening along those lines. But I'm happy to wait and be surprised. I wouldn't blame them if they decide, no, it's just too risky, and with all the other issues going on in the video game industry, they might just want to focus on, providing that one console experience. I wouldn't blame them. But there's this little Vita Island voice inside of me that says, hey, give it another go. Come on, you can do it. Because we know what extraordinary hardware, what extraordinary devices Sony can produce if they put their mind to it. Anyway, that was just a bit of indulgence and speculation on my part, something I don't do often, but talking about the Vita, it sort of seems to spring up. The Vita has lived on in my heart, but also in my daily life. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you enjoyed this occasion where we could all just share our love of the Vita, our memories, our experiences, and our hopes for the future, I guess. As always, thank you very much for your time. Please keep well. I'm Food for Dogs. Bye-bye.
あそこで過ごしたことは多分一生忘れねえと思う。
Hakuoki is a truly iconic visual novel. It brought us in the West a taste of Japanese 19th century history, interwoven with fictional elements of horror and science fiction. There is furious action, but also the long hours and days of boredom that is a staple of military life. We watch relationships of deceit, torment, but also respect and love. It's a story full of personal tragedies, and in a way knowing that many of those events and deaths did occur, it makes it even harder. I know I cried many times, and I hear that a lot from other players. You could say that it's strange that a story so deeply rooted in Japanese history and culture should have managed to appeal to so many people in the West who previously maybe had never really played a visual novel. I think that's a testament to the story and the way it's been told. But it also reminds me of something my old writing teacher once said. The local is universal, he said. A story rooted in a specific time and place, brought to life by seasoned storytellers, has the ability to transcend all borders and appeal to people anywhere.